for you to make as you make your plans for Saturday and Sunday.
And new drone pictures in this evening of the severe weather in Kansas. Tonight we'll break down the difference between a land spout and a tornado.
And Kentucky Derby weekend is here, and while it's a horse race, the fashion is legendary. Tonight we look at if you're picking out the right outfit and how that could keep you safe in the heat.
WBRC Fox 6 News. First Alert Weather Extra starts now.
I need to make sure I have the right hat and the right outfit there for the Kentucky Derby.
You know, I know Fred just retired,
Yeah.
but we may have to hit him up because he always has a pretty good hat game.
He knows about the hat. You got that
does.
right. That's what we need to do. We need to have like Fred's hats, and we can do the temperatures, you know.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So, hey, listen, we got some rain out there right now, some
Yes.
much needed rain, Lauren, that we've been tracking. Let's go right to our sky vision. I want to show you this. It is pouring right now around Montevallo. Folks there in Shelby County and into Bibb County, the rain moving in. This is lifting to the north, so if you're in Bessemer, I'm giving you that first alert. This is moving to the north. In Helena, this might reach us as well as this moves to the north, but that's that 20% chance of rain we talked about yesterday. Somebody gets it, some areas miss out, which a lot of areas right now missing out on the rain. As you can see, East Alabama, yeah, you're going to have to crank up the sprinkler there for the garden this evening. 81 in Aniana right now, 79 at Coleman. It's starting to feel a bit more soupy, but this is just the beginning. What you can see is we've sort of had this protective bubble over us that's kept us dry, but that's starting to weaken and it's giving way to more rainfall development. So tonight, throughout the day tomorrow, and throughout the weekend, the next big thing will be these scattered showers and thunderstorms developing. But we're not seeing lightning with this. It's just mostly a heavy downpour. As you can see, we have the lightning counter on here. I was watching this, but you might get an alert. So if you're around Maylene, I mentioned Helena and Alabaster. Yeah, it looks like we're going to receive some of this rain. There's Montevallo, so it's moving in our direction. So within the next 60 minutes, giving you that first alert there for rain moving north out around Morgan Road and over towards McCalla, Bessemer, and even Hoover and Alabaster. Some rain if this does continue to hold together, which it looks like that's happening. Also crossing Highway 216 here in Tuscaloosa County. This is moving north towards the Bull City area, and Searles there, areas to the north in Tuscaloosa County past Pattersontown, and North Tuscaloosa County, a little pop-up that's around Wyndham Springs. That's following Highway 69, so folks around Oakman and Parrish, maybe even Jasper, we might get some rainfall out of this as that moves north. But more wet weather possible tonight. Check this out. We got some new data just in. You're getting that extra look right now. Back to the west, see all these scattered showers, and notice how later on tonight some of that wet weather could still impact us here through 10 o'clock. But this is some of the forecast radar data. It shows mostly scattered showers this evening, but after midnight, notice how the chances for rain increase, and we might actually get a rumble of thunder trying to sneak in a storm perhaps to the northwest tomorrow morning. So make sure you check in with Mickey early in the day. There could be a passing thunderstorm, but this is showing around Jasper, northern Tuscaloosa County, but especially those northwest areas. Not expecting a major organized risk for any severe weather, but you certainly may have some heavy downpours, perhaps that I-22, 278 corridor there, some drive time impacts for early in the day. But we'll see more of this tomorrow afternoon. We'll get into more specifics on rain chances as you plan ahead coming up in First Alert Weather Extra.
Thanks, Wes. Well, it may be hard to believe with rain chances in the forecast, but we do have a drought monitor update. You can see there is some drought across parts of the U.S. Even though there's been severe weather in the central U.S., they have gotten some beneficial rainfall to help with their drought conditions. But what about here in central Alabama? Well, we actually do have abnormally dry conditions that have just been issued. Now, this data is taken from this Tuesday past that. And so we're looking at areas like Jefferson, Shelby County, over into parts of East Alabama, Northeast Alabama, including Gadsden, Anniston, up that I-59 corridor with abnormally dry conditions. So it's not technically drought conditions yet, but it is something we're going to be keeping a close eye on, because if with these rain chances we see, we don't get an improved rainfall, then we will possibly see those drought conditions worsen. And we just got finished with April, and here's where some of that concern is coming. These numbers you see here that are larger, that gives the average April rainfall in Birmingham, Tuscaloosa, and Anniston. So on average in April in our 3 spots, you get about 4.5 to 5 inches of rain. But look at what actually fell. We actually ended April with a deficit of rainfall, almost 3 inches of rain in Birmingham, about 2.5 inches in Tuscaloosa, and barely 2.25 inches in areas like Anniston. So we're really hurting for some rainfall. So we're hoping kind of this more unsettled summer-like pattern we're in will help us. And March and April, especially March, those are some of the months as we get into the springtime that we see some of our heaviest rainfall. Also July, even December, when we can get some of those wet winter weather systems, sun, snow for us often, but you can often see these peaks in March, July, and December of heavier rainfall. So with us typically getting some decent rainfall in April, we certainly want to try to make that up in May. So it's something we're going to be doing, but fortunately we haven't been dealing with any flooding. Now the Mexia Police Department shared these photos as things started to get bad. They got several calls about vehicles stalled in high water in Texas. Emergency responders were asking residents to stay off the roads if they did not need to be out. For those who had to travel, they urged extreme caution. And talking more about that wet weather in the southern plains, downtown Livingston, Texas is underwater after torrential rainfall today. Take a look at this drone video. Nearly 12 inches of rain, that's about a foot of rain, fell this morning, and some areas are under mandatory evacuations because of river flooding. A flood watch remains in place until 1 in the afternoon.
We'll take a look at these photos from a severe system yesterday that impacted the Plain States. Ryan Carty, actually from Birmingport right here. Ryan, he spots and brings a lot of valuable information anytime we have severe weather in our area, but he captured a photo of a land spout, not a tornado, that was visible over Kansas. You see it in that photo right there. Also, they captured several images of wall clouds, and I remember one time chasing out in the plains back when I was studying meteorology. And it's like this a lot of times. You see these tornado photos, you see pictures of storms all the time, but it's actually quite challenging to capture a tornado and video a tornado, even though you see so much severe weather. But a lot of that's been happening. They've actually had a lot of opportunities to capture storms here over the past couple of weeks, but some incredible images coming in there from Ryan Carty, and we certainly appreciate Ryan sharing those. Remember, you can always share photos with us on the First Alert Weather app. But I wanted to take a moment here to talk a little bit about the difference between a tornado and a land spout. And typically with a tornado, see right here, you have the rotation, and what happens with, you end up with wind shear, you end up with directional, what we call directional wind shear, winds changing direction with height, and also speed shear, which is changes in wind speed. And what happens is with a severe storm, you have a rotating updraft, and it ingests that rotation and causes that funnel to form. But when you have a land spout, there's not necessarily a rotating updraft. What you're actually dealing with here is you're seeing a front that actually forces that rotating column to rise. So typically when you have a gust front, something like that, it kind of resembles what we see a lot of times with a developing cumulus cloud and a water spout. But even though it looks like a tornado, it's one of those trick me storms. A lot of times we'll see a lot of photos out there, and if you ever look at the Storm Spotter Study Guide, you'll see a lot of land spouts and those comparisons to tornadoes, but there is a big difference. These are typically on the weaker side. But we're just getting started right here on First Alert Weather Extra. As we continue, we're going to take another look at the radar. We do have some rain out there right now, and meteorologist Lauren Linehan is going to join us again. We're going to go beyond the 7 days. Stay with us. More in 30 seconds.
Welcome back to First Alert Weather Extra. I'm meteorologist Lauren Linehan. We were just talking about extreme flooding events that have been happening in the southern plains this week, like in Texas. And here on Weather Extra, we do always like to analyze the climate as well. If you think about weather is your mood, but climate is your personality. That's going to be analyzed over decades, years, centuries, millennia. And so one thing we have noticed, because we talk about a marked warming in climate across the U.S. and across the world since the Industrial Revolution began in the 1800s. When you see warmer air, that can actually hold more moisture. So there is a concern that if we go forward in time and don't mitigate issues with global warming, we could potentially see more extreme precipitation events. Why? Because warmer air can hold a greater capacity for water vapor. With every 1 degree Fahrenheit an increase with temperature, that global average temperature, you can hold 4% more water vapor. And so as we look at this, when you have a situation, you look at the relationship between temperature and moisture. Let's just think about the winter, for example. We always say here in Alabama, sometimes it's too cold to snow. We can get a significant cold front to come in, but we may not get any moisture associated with it because cold air just doesn't hold a lot of moisture. But if you do have a situation where there is more moisture available, you could see some heavier snow. And when you see that temperature increase, sometimes you can have more heavy rain. And that's what we see a lot of times in the summer. You get those heavy downpours and you just get inundated with very heavy rainfall because that warm air in the summertime can hold more moisture. So as we look at this potential data, what has that change in precipitation been over the past 50 years or so? Well, you can see areas like the southeast, just as we've been seeing overall a warming trend in areas in the southeast for the past 50 years or so. This is showing a 37% increase in precipitation rates in those days where you have heavy precipitation possible. So what could that mean in the future if we continue to see a warming climate? Well, it could really impact areas like the southeast. You can see that highlighted here if we were to see global temperatures continue to warm. Now, why is the southeast an area that could be really vulnerable to this? Well, first of all, think about areas like Louisiana, that coastline. They're certainly vulnerable to sea level rise because they are sitting below sea level in areas like New Orleans. But as far as precipitation, our proximity to the Gulf of Mexico could actually work against us. The Gulf of Mexico is already a body of water that has a lot of warm, moist air associated with it. That air mass over the Gulf of Mexico migrates northward, especially in the summertime, and it just wrings itself out and produces a lot of moisture. But if we have a situation where the climate continues to warm, you see sea surface level temperatures continuing to warm as well, that can hold more moisture, and it's having an impact on the water cycle. So it's certainly something we want to watch in the years ahead, Wes.
The long-awaited crewed flight test of Boeing's Starliner spacecraft is finally upon us. This mission is critical because if it's successful, it will give NASA another way to take crews to the International Space Station from American soil. Right now, it only has SpaceX to handle the job. Marshall Space Flight Center Director Joseph Pelfrey just returned from Cape Canaveral and says the Alabama-built Atlas V rocket and the Starliner spacecraft look good to go.
And our teams were involved in working with Boeing and ULA for that mission, and the teams polled go for launch coming up next Monday evening. This is a flight test of the Boeing spacecraft as part of our commercial crew program, where we're working with industry partners to fly our astronauts back and forth to the space station. So it's a big day. This is only the 6th time in U.S. history that we have brought online a new human-rated spacecraft, and so it is a big deal.
A successful flight will put Starliner on the path to being a certified spacecraft. It will be a nighttime launch at 9:34 Central next Monday night. We'll have to be on the lookout.
Well, it's a time-honored tradition. The Kentucky Derby and a big hat could go a long way in keeping horse race fans cool. We'll have more on how the weather can affect fashion for this big event after the break.
And welcome back into Weather Extra. We've had some wet weather moving through. An isolated downpour moved near Montevallo. It's 84 degrees, but typically, you get some rain after a warm day. I know it's feeling quite steamy out there in parts of Shelby County right now. No wet weather for us in Birmingham. Visibility is actually looking pretty good here from Red Mountain. Wind south at 5 to 10. Temperature at 84 degrees. Not too bad at this hour. We've had a lot of clouds making their way into the Birmingham area. A few clouds around Tuscaloosa. We've had a couple showers just to the west of Lake Tuscaloosa, but not seeing the pitter-patter of rain on the water there. 83 right now. I know it's showing sunshine. That's the sensor out at the airport, but obviously we have an eye in the sky, right? So we can see there. We've got a mostly cloudy sky. Oxford from Calhoun County 911 view from Coldwater Mountain, 83 degrees. A little breeze there. See it, camera moving, but no rain showing up. We did have an isolated shower earlier for us here around Ohatchee. I was watching that as it moved north. Not a lot out there right now. If you're about to head out the door, run some errands this evening, most areas are in fine shape. It's later on tonight when I do expect a better chance for some of these showers to develop. Right now, what we're seeing is very isolated, but there is some rain that's still making its way north. If this holds together, we still could see some of these showers work their way into the Hoover area, Bluff Park, Bessemer, McCalla, even north towards Fairfield, and perhaps even further north there towards places like McDonald Chapel and Fultondale if we do see some of that rain continue. But also in northern Tuscaloosa County, a little downpour. That's moving towards Parrish and Jasper. It's kind of following Highway 69 there off to the north. But no lightning still. Watching that lightning counter. It's just rain that we're seeing for a couple of areas out there. All right, overnight tonight. This is from the HRRR model, some of the high resolution data, and it's showing just mostly this evening these scattered showers. But notice as we get closer to midnight and then through the early morning, how that chance for some of these scattered downpours will increase, especially for areas to the northwest. And I think there's a possibility that overnight we could have a rumble of thunder. I can't promise every location is going to see rain or receive rain overnight, but you'll certainly want to make sure if you have any building supplies, anything needs to be covered up, it is, because tonight we could have some rain and a few rumbles for some areas. Some of us out there will get it tonight with the rainfall, and then tomorrow during the day we'll catch some breaks, highs back in the 80s, feeling a bit more humid, but watch what happens later tomorrow. See that, another increase, and even show some of that wet weather even past midnight tomorrow night, perhaps some scattered thunderstorms. Look at this right around Tuscaloosa there, Aniana, but this is what we're dealing with here. Some areas could see some rain. Again, this is model data, but you just get a good idea of the coverage here of what we're talking about rainfall wise. Saturday still could see some development during the afternoon, so we're forecasting that possibility as we move ahead. So rain chances right now still on the scattered side, so I wouldn't totally cancel my plans. If you're heading out to the Strawberry Festival, just know that going into the weekend there might be a pop-up storm in the vicinity. Just check the First Alert weather app. Anything pops up should move on through. We'll see those rain chances also. Of course, Tuscaloosa looks like actually higher rain chances going into tomorrow evening for folks traveling for graduation here in Tuscaloosa. But next week, we'll hold on to higher rain chances through Monday. We have backed off on rain chances a bit Tuesday. Notice the highs staying in the upper 80s because of those lower rain chances. The 80s are here to stay. We actually touched 90 degrees today in Jemison, according to our First Alert weather watcher, Lynn Hall. And Lauren, looks like temperature-wise, I know you mentioned earlier at midday, maybe late next week we might see those highs back off a little bit, but hey, it's hot right now.
Yeah, right, exactly. Like today we didn't even hit 90 degrees. I'm like, man, this already sucks. And it's not even that humid outside yet. Emphasis on that humid. There is a little humidity. But what could we see beyond the 7-day? Well, of course, we've been focusing on somewhat of an unsettled summer-like pattern Friday through Monday with that chance of storms in the forecast. And just as we see during the summer months, we have to remember those summer hazards that we want to give you a first alert for if a storm does turn strong. Could produce some heavy downpours, cloud-to-ground lightning, or possibly some gusty winds or small hail. But taking a peek beyond the 7-day, possibly by Wednesday through Friday of next week, we begin begin to see a few more showers and storms in the forecast. Unfortunately, when you get into the summer months, sometimes it's hard to pinpoint exactly where that scattered development is going to set up, and you can't say, oh, there's going to be a storm over your house at 3 o'clock. We've come a long way with weather, but maybe not that great just yet. But looking ahead to next weekend, which is Mother's Day weekend, by the way, it looks like we're seeing a trend towards some drier weather. And as Wes was mentioning, there could potentially be some slightly cooler temperatures in the forecast before going into the following week for a chance of storms. So at least for the next 6 to 10 days, May 8th through 12th, we could be seeing above average temperatures across the southeast. So before it gets cooler, and cooler, that's a relative term, it's going to get potentially hotter next week with that above average temperature forecast. But could we see more rain? We're talking about those abnormally dry conditions that we've been seeing in central Alabama. We could potentially, by next Wednesday through Friday, if there is the possibility of more showers and storms, lean towards an above average forecast in terms of precipitation. So just a quick peek. Here we are next Friday, May 10th, showing that possibility of scattered storms. But notice this little dip. That's a trough that could be setting up that weekend that could bring some potentially cooler weather, West. So maybe highs in the 70s instead of the 80s.
Yeah, this is the time of year where you just want to put the brakes on, right? Well, hey, a big tradition's happening this weekend. The 150th Kentucky Derby is this weekend at Churchill Downs, and it can get hot. Sean Baute, our sister station, actually has more on how the weather can affect the fashion.
When the temperatures at Churchill Downs start to reach 90 degrees, you'll find that you sometimes have to make some changes to your race day plan. Whether it's your outfit, full suits with shorts is a popular heat mitigation effort, or gadgets like this battery-powered fan. Some people still prefer the old school manual variety. This weekend, healthcare teams are warning people to stay safe by staying hydrated and staying cool. Norton Sports Health is one of the healthcare providers on site at Churchill. They have first aid stations throughout, and they have ambulances on standby, but hopefully nobody needs those. If you start to feel sick, take action early.
Don't wait. When you feel like you are maybe getting a little hot, go ahead and go inside. Don't wait until you're already, sweating or feeling dizzy. Get inside, get water, get it in air conditioning, and usually you can ward off a lot of issues.
If you're in a spot where you don't have access to air conditioning, like the infield, try to just find some shade. It's not quite the same, but it'll be cooler and give your body a chance to recover just a little bit. It'll obviously protect you from the sun as well. At Churchill Downs, Sean Bowdy, Wave News.
Well, a few showers out there. Right now, we're going to be tracking some of this wet weather tomorrow, and we might actually have a cicada recipe. Interesting story.
Hey, we love cooking up a storm here on Weather Extra. Stay tuned for the cicadas.
Join us tomorrow.